good evening of Speak On It. I'm your host today, Tim, and we got some special guests in the house. We had a flyer that was out. First of all, I'm not dumb, so I don't normally do this, but uh, I guess what is it called? The house cleaner. Um, want you to like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like, share, as well as Spotify. You can listen to us on our podcast as well, and Instagram as well. Follow us. We had different clips or podcasts, things of that sort. But without further ado, um, today. Uh, One of the things that piqued my attention was there was a meme sort of um, that had a discussion going on within the Black community, and what I'm gonna do is do something different here. We'll speak on it today before I'm gonna introduce my guest. I am gonna share the flyer, so I'm gonna share my screen. I normally don't do that, but needless to say, just want to highlight the picture that we're talking about here. So if you guys can give me 1 second, maybe a little unorthodox to speak on it, but nonetheless. Uh, so what you guys have on your screen would be the meme that we were talking about, and Killer Mike had an interesting perspective on this meme of Beyonce with the horn head, the braided up into circle. He said, because some of us are so drunk of Satan's version of Christianity, we believe Beyonce's horn head ornament is satanic. It's actually an acknowledgement to who you really are. These women are from the Dinka and Mercy tribes. Horn head dresses and also lip plates are a sign of prestige and honor. Your devil is the white supremacy system that uses religion to keep you enslaved by the image of your master. Stop with the self hate and investigate who we actually are, because we are way before any Abrahamic religions and will remain long after they're gone. God bless, love yourself into your own heritage more than your master's version of your mythology. So, just to briefly share that before I get to sharing my guest. Let's see. Stop share here. All right. So without further ado, um, we have on the show we have Antwan Savage. We also have Ezekiel Ben Yacub. Uh, so I'd like them to introduce themselves. We'll first start off with Antoine, because Eric has been on the show before, so he's kind of co-hosting today. So we're going to start with Antoine.
Peace and blessings. What's going on, everybody? Man, Antwan Savage. Want me to do a full introduction or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Full, you
full
know,
introduction, man. Just full introduction of just you, man, in a sense.
you know what I'm saying? Walk the same gravels as y'all, Delaware native, you know what I'm saying? Living in Baltimore right now. You know, just living my life, man. You know what I'm saying? Taking it one day at a time, able to see another day, man. So I'm grateful for the most.
All right, that's all it is, man. And Ezekiel Ben Yaqub.
All right, peace, power, and prosperity, family. I have been on the show before. It's an honor to be back, especially as a co-host. Hopefully, I do the show speak on it some justice. Um, yeah, I'm here to share whatever knowledge has been shared with me and impart unto the people, hopefully for their edification. Um, and I'll just kick it off by saying this: as a proponent of the Abrahamic faith systems that Killer Mike mentioned, although I believe in the path of Abraham, whether that be through Islam, um, whether you identify as a Hebrew, or you identify as a Black Jew, or you identify as a Christian. I rock with all that. But first and foremost, I am a descendant of West Africans who were enslaved in this country. And I 100% agree with what Killer Mike said. And I can't wait to talk about why.
All right, I'm trying to multitask here, be the producer and the host.
You
But
gotta do it all, brother.
but nonetheless, one of the things just to um, bring it into perspective, um, when we look at a celebrity's perspective on something as this sort, um, what is your take on hearing it from someone in the limelight versus a regular person? And I'll start with you, Antwan.
Well, words is powerful. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, Killer Mike is absolutely right. Those that garment that Beyonce had on was, to show strength and beauty and acknowledgement and enlightenment. You know what I'm saying? And for people to, basically just throw satanic, everybody think it's always got to be something like devilish or whatever. For her wearing that, I can remember, if you ever seen the movie Black Panther. You know what I'm saying? Angela Bassett, she wore this crown thing over the top of her head to show strength and beauty. That was a representation of a Congolian tribe called the Membitu tribe. What they do is they elongate the head of the women to show strength and beauty. That was another example too, because somebody had said something about Angela Bassett wearing that thing in her head in the movie. So I understand, people. Excuse me, my throat. Sorry about that. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Like hearing it versus hearing it from a celebrity versus hearing it from someone in the community or a regular person. Um, I mean, I think that one of the reasons why it was so much backlash, it was because of the person that was saying it. I mean, there was some that agreed, there was a lot that disagreed. Um, but at the same token, if someone, in a sense, were to walk up to you and you guys are discussing this, or it just comes up in discussion, and hearing it from a regular person, uh, how is how is it different of the reactions that you take it from a celebrity versus a regular person? I would say.
Well, Killer Mike's in the limelight, so the things he said is basically, a lot of people, a lot of things what he says don't get scrutinized compared to what a regular person is saying. If a regular person is coming up to you, it's just like, oh, okay, it's like we're gonna build upon it. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna discuss, whatever you're trying to, whatever we need to talk about compared to celebrity is where everybody, his voice is in the public eye. You know what I'm saying? Everything you say nowadays is going to get written down. Everybody's so sensitive about everything that you say. So, his voice has power, and his voice is reaching the communities. So he's a figure. He's a public figure. So that's really the difference. The way people are perceived. The way you're perceived. That's really the reaction like that is how people perceive you. You're a regular person. It's just like it's a regular conversation. If he says it, he's getting scrutinized for it. It can be the same exact thing, but since he's in the public eye, he's going to take a lot more heat from that.
And what's your take on it, E?
I think that our people, some of them, and then we're on the right path out of this, but a lot of people are still under this worldview. Our people are so effectively conditioned by what he calls Satan's. What does he call? I don't want to misquote him. Uh, Satan's version of Christianity. And I think our people are, and I would love to define that term, Satan, but our people are so engrossed in Satan's form of Christianity, as he put it, that it didn't matter if he was a celebrity or if you or I said it, it was going to get backlash. Um, there are conspiracy theories surrounding Beyonce and Jay-Z that have been around for quite some time. And I'm not going to say that I disagree or agree with those. And I'm not going to pretend like there aren't, um, societies or alliances or allegiances that celebrities may tie themselves to out there. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that Killer Mike calling the form of Christianity that's popularly practiced today in the United States, specifically by Black Americans, him calling that satanic, and then turning around and saying what Beyonce is doing is something that we should investigate and learn and study, that's going to get some backlash from Sunday morning, um, you know, churchgoers. It's just going to, because this thing is heavily ingrained in our minds and in our thought process. It's heavily ingrained pretty much in everything we do except the way we vote. But I'm not even going to get into that.
No.
We throw Christianity onto like the way we see everything, and it's not. I like the way he put that. It's not so much Christianity. It's a specific spin on Christianity that causes us to look at something like horns as demonic, or anything Afrocentric as demonic or spooky or jujus, even the colonized minds on the continent of Africa, in West African countries and Central African countries, the colonized mindset is calling their indigenous practices jujus. But we're entering into an age where newer generations, they're feeling less connected with that version of Christianity, and they're looking for something because they're looking for some type of identity. And it's mainly because of that version of Christianity is not speaking out for these people. So specifically millennials on down are feeling like the Black church is not doing enough to speak for or fight for their concerns. And they're not doing enough to celebrate what they're finding out through Google and memes and Facebook. They're finding out who they are. These people are finding out who they are, and they're finding out that their ancestors did X, Y, and Z. And a young person who is in an information age is saying, okay, my mama, my grandmama, my great grandmama, we've been doing this for how many hundreds of years, and we're still in this situation. Well, maybe I need to look at something else. Why is this not working for me? And why, when I ask my pastor or my deacons, they have a superficial answer for me and nothing that actually works in my community? So as a result, you have half the people that are thinking and celebrating something that Beyonce did, and then you have half the people that are like, that's the devil. But interesting enough, their own Bibles would prove them to be either a liar or conditioned, because their Bible has a different definition for these terms.
Okay, you got into a lot, and both of y'all got into a lot. Um, one of the things that I put my perspective. I mean, I think that one of the things is that we distrust, in a sense, celebrities when it comes to actual knowledge, being as though that they are in that limelight. Like Twan said, as far as them being scrutinized, I mean, it's always assumed that the celebrities are in this secret society or the secret club, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. And whenever something is said or done, it's kind of ridiculed and judged and under a microscope a lot more, versus someone to where you may think that they're well versed in their studies, and them coming to you and saying something like that, and you taken aback from it, but at the same time you respect that they know what they're talking about. And I think that with Killer Mike, the way that he came across and the way that he come across sometimes is abrasive. I mean, you can hear it even in the way that he raps. You know what I mean? But that's just his personality, and that can be sometimes a deterrent to people as well. But one of the things that he touched on was about, and it's always coming back to Christianity, right? As far as it's always an assumption that the community is Christianized, but then in a sense, like why one of the things that Twan was saying as far as it being a sign of strength. What is it about the symbolism that is to where it seems like is a negative connotation with religion, I guess, and mainly with him speaking of Christianity and its post Christianity.
Well, it's like he says, the horns. You know, this is the picture that we've been and that's been embedded in our heads for so long of what Satan looks like. A red, you know what I'm saying, with horns. So this is the mind is already conditioned. You know, slave mentality, English systems. You know, have got us conditioned where this is what we're going to see. This is our perception of what satanic is. It has to have horns. You know, and not really knowing the whole research behind why she wore that. So it's always an assumption of the person who doesn't know.
You want to add on, E? You want to add on, E? If not, I can try to.
Yeah, I actually would like to show something because I believe that visual demonstration is extremely important. All right. Um, a lot of people are not going to accept people who live by or think that they live by um, the Bible, right? They are not going to accept anything that we say African symbolism represents. All right. So the best way to educate someone who believes in the Bible is to use that worldview to help them to understand. And education, I think, is extremely important. So if you bear with me, how about this? How about I look up my image and Tamai, you go ahead and tackle what you were going to say.
So I got a little tongue tied trying to do certain things. I didn't know what you was gonna do, but one of the things that Twan was saying is the imagery of satanic imagery, as far as it being the red devil with the two horns, and that has been what has been fed to, I mean, everyone in America as the symbol or the image of Satan, if that's what you want to, or demonic demon, anything that's evil is associated with horns. Not necessarily horns, but just in the facet of a man with a beard, or even, I mean, if you want to go deeper, the Baphomet with the horns. That, I mean, that's a lot of symbolism as well, and I mean that in itself I could understand, but um, when it comes to even going back to the Vikings, right? They wore horns. Even in ancient, well, not ancient, but even with American Indians, they've had headdresses with horns as well. And the way that that horn imagery is just portrayed, and I think the added on to the allure of the whole music industry is evil, just kind of adds on to that. You
Bet. All
can.
right. Is it? Am I able to share my screen? You mind if I share my screen?
All right, let me figure out these capabilities. We've
I
never.
got the share screen button right here.
Go ahead. Go
Cool.
ahead. Dude,
All
go
right.
ahead and press it and see what happens.
Oh, it's disabled right now. I guess you
It's
have to enable
disabled.
it. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Okay, where can we find this image? Or could you put it onto the
Um,
comments? You can send it to me and I can post it on the comments.
all right, let me see if I could do that.
But while he's doing that, I mean, I think that one of the things is like Twan was saying, it's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding different cultures and what they do to symbolize certain things that we see. And I say we as an American culture, as a black man in America, as we see that as evil. I mean, because at the end of the day, we if we're sticking to the traditional majority Christian, black people majority of Christians in America. So if we stick to that narrative, if you want to go with Adam and Eve, and that's a creation story, I mean, then we can go and see that the people of the Bible that was spoken of was looking like us. So then that in turn can have it to where it's more relatable that okay, if we're talking about the creation and we see people that are in Africa that look just like us and still have this symbolism in their culture and they see nothing wrong with it. Why is it that we should shun an eye or have a a view on them to say that's negative just because that we don't understand exactly what it's the symbolizing or what they see it as.
Well, first I would have to say, I would have to home in on um, Killer Mike's term there when he said Satan's version of Christianity. Right now, we have people who will say that the Bible is God's word. It's inspired by God, and that these are the truths, the inerrable truths that we should be living on. That this is, this is what I live my life on because I'm a Christian. I live on the BIBLE, the basic instructions before leaving earth. But what you're going to find is these people are not well versed in the ancient text that they claim to base their entire life on. And if you were well versed and well studied in this text, and I'm not going to say that I am because I know people who are like far beyond me, but when you start to even dig deep and scratch the surface, we haven't even scratched the surface as people who have been born and raised on the Bible, who've been hearing quotes from the good book our entire lives. We know nothing about the culture. It's what you said, Brother Tim. We know nothing about the cultures of the people who actually penned these things. We don't even know what the alphabet looks like that they were using to write in their time period. And I just shared the image in the chat. And I'd like to show you something that's a little bit, I like a lot of situational irony, and I find this very ironic. This hatred or this fear for the horns. And for anybody that's watching at home, if you have Amazon Prime or Fire TV, and you can watch the shows on Amazon Prime, I highly recommend you check out How the Devil Got His Horns. How appropriate is that for a time like this where we discussing something like this? Because in that documentary, what they're going to let you know, what they're going to let you in on is that before very late, pretty much in European Christianity, you had no imagery of the quote unquote devil or Satan or Lucifer with horns at all. In fact, a lot of the mosaics that were produced in some of the oldest European Christian churches of the devil, he is seen as an angel and as an agent of the Most High, whose job is to punish or judge sinners under the Most High's employ, not this antithesis that is completely at odds with the Most High at all times.
You got big words here, brother.
All right. Okay. So antithesis. He's not the opposite. He's not his enemy. It's to face thing where this is evil. In fact, as somebody who follows Abrahamic faith systems, if you are a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian, or you don't call yourself by any of those, but you believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and you think that there is an evil equal to the Most High, that's an insult to the Most High. There is no equal to the source of all the universe. He doesn't have equals. All right.
Now,
In
can you
fact,
elaborate on this photo?
yeah. So this photo, I want you to take a look. This is some of the alphabet that Hebrew was descended from. This is not, a lot of people will tell you this is ancient Hebrew. This is not Hebrew.
No.
This is Proto-Sinaitic. Proto-Sinaitic was a very rudimentary Canaanite pictographic system. So pictograph is a way of writing with pictures. And it was derived from Egyptian hieroglyphics. So it's African in its root. But the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph. And the first letter of the Phoenician alphabet and the first letter of the Canaanite alphabet is Aleph. That's where we get the word alphabet, comes from Aleph Beit. And what is that? The Aleph right there. That is the head of a horned beast, whether you want to say it's a bull or an ox or a buffalo. That is what that is. And how did you spell God in Hebrew? Aleph Lamed. Brother Tim, if you could point the cursor at Aleph and Lamed. So you had the Aleph, which is, some would say is equivalent to an A, but it's really not. And then you have the Lamed, which is the equivalent to the English letter L. And that's exactly what it was spelled, L. You see it in my name, Ezeki'El. That's what was translated into English as God. Now they used a symbol for an ox and a symbol for a shepherd's crook to write out the sound for how they called God, El, or Elohim, or in Muslims, Allah, Ilah. Now, I'm not saying that there is some deep meaning, because a lot of people believe there's there's meaning, leadership, and strength. But I do know that in ancient Near Eastern cultures and a lot of ancient indigenous cultures, African, Native American, ancient Mesopotamian, the ox, the bull, the goat, these horned male bovine creatures were a symbol of strength. So the people that wrote your Bible considered the ox or the bull's head, a symbol of strength. And every time they would have read or wrote out the word God, they would have used that. However, Killer Mike is saying this is Satan's version of Christianity. Satan, meaning your opposition, your enemy's version of Christianity, is telling you that something is perverse or evil, when in fact, in the root of it, that thing was a symbol for God. All the deities were shown with horned crowns. Just like Native Americans put horns on their helmets. Just like ancient indigenous European cultures put horns on their helmets. It's strength. But you allow somebody else to tell you about a book that might just be concerning you. And now everything you see, that's Satan. But that horned image didn't come until way later. And Europeans put that horned image on Satan because it came from something that they knew of as mischievous in ancient Greek culture. So something was completely foreign from the Bible, something that came hundreds of years after the Bible, thousands of years after your Bible. You allow that to be the image. Baphomet is, that's not even old. That's not even contemporary to your Bible. That's a new imagination of Europeans. So some new imagination of Europeans, you let that dictate you hating your own culture that your ancestors come from. That's why I agree when Killer Mike says Satan's version of Christianity, because the definition of Satan is adversary. Your enemy's version of Christianity, you let make you hate what belongs to you. So you look at Beyonce, look, that's the devil. That's the devil. That's satanic ritual. When she's showcasing African spirituality, something that's more akin to what you see in the Old Testament than what you're doing at church on Sunday.
So let's not we can we can delve into that a little bit deeper. But just even with the representation of Africa, looking at some of the comments of people that are in Africa right now. One of the comments that I seen on Twitter was the Wakandification of the continent and Black diasporic identities is entirely uninspired. The repeated tropes slash symbolic gestures that homogenize and essentialize thousands of African cultures in service of securing the terrain for Black capitalist possibilities in future is tired, mudding up the entire 54 countries' culture and coming up with African culture, even though we are diverse. Selling that story of Africa, we was kings, which is tired as hell. African Americans are about to Wakanda forever the shit out of the movie. Beyonce needs to stop shoving her reheated Yoruba mythology and the black business industrial complex down our throats. Enough is enough. We love her, but the uprising has begun. So I was looking at those comments, right, and these are from people that are indigenous or are living there right now. Um, and one of the things that is a not a misnomer, but because of the celebrity status, is that uh, because I think that she's never did tours in Africa, as well as when I'm talking about her, I mean and Beyonce. Um, and her having this production is looked at as a capitalistic move, right? At least to people that are in the land right now. We as Americans, we can see it as evil or not, and there's a lot of perspectives that we can have, and one of the things that I mean both of you guys touched on at the end of the day is just making sure that you understand what you believe in and what you stand up for and what you hold near and dear to you. You should understand the history. One of the trending things that we have here on Speak on It is about being a student of what you're understanding, whether it be sports, whether it be business, whether it be credit, whether it be mortgage lending, whether it be fitness. It's just about being a student and learning. Um, and one of the things about I think that Africans don't understand about American culture is that American culture is built off of capitalism, um, but it's looked at in a bad way. Um, what are you guys' thoughts as far as their opinions of feeling as though that Beyonce would be using this um, as a capitalistic move to kind of uh, broaden her pockets more so than her culture?
Well, they have a right to feel, entitled to their own opinion. They have a right to feel what they feel. Their perception is that she's using this as, something to, put more money in her pocket. They feel like she's really not knowledgeable to what that really meant. So I absolutely understand, where they coming from. We over here, we see it different to where, the way they see it over there, they see it as that, okay, this is just a scheme to put more money into her, to keep that Beyonce shit moving. You know what I'm saying? It's already long enough. So, she never, I guess you said she never been over in tours in Africa.
Yeah,
That's
they
what you
said that
said?
she's never had any shows in Africa, and that's one of the reasons why I guess Africa Twitter, as you would call it, it was kind of like this is something that we look like this is not for the culture. This is more so for your pockets because you've
Right.
never did anything for us as far as having shows and performing for us more so.
or
Yeah,
or or even just coming there to visit. You know what I'm saying? You got some celebrities of high, they come in at least try to learn the culture, know the culture and stuff like that. She hasn't even, made that move yet. So they're entitled to their opinion to feel exactly the way they feel because they think it's all a show. It's a show with Beyonce. Everything she do is a show. So they looking at that as like, okay, this is just a prop to put more money on you and Jay's empire, and you really don't even care about the culture. Somebody probably told you to put this on, and you have no idea what you have on, knowing that it has a long lineage of history extended from you. So I understand exactly where where they coming from.
I would say that we have to be careful um, with reading an opinion from an individual or two or even 20 from Africa who are critical of this and projecting that opinion onto every citizen of all 54 countries of Africa. And I have something here that I'm going to read to y'all because well, for one, just like brother Twan said, they are their concerns are completely valid. The individual who made that statement, their concerns are completely valid, and I totally understand the disdain for capitalism. I get it. Capitalism has done a lot of damage to the African continent, and capitalism is a big tool for the rise and the empowerment of colonialism and white supremacy. But capitalism is not 100% bad either. It's how it's being used. Capitalism coupled with classism is an issue. Capitalism and social democracies such as Norway is actually really successful, and people lead happy and good lives and don't feel like they're oppressed by classes. But I think that what we do is, if there's an African native who has stigmas towards Africans in America descended from slaves, we think that that's the overall consensus of Africans. And I don't think that's the case. And here's why. I don't know who's familiar with the rapper No Name Gypsy. Um, she became semi-relevant lately, and I'll be the first to say I listen to No Name Gypsy's music, and she can spit. I like her music. I don't like her opinions. Don't care for her opinions. For example, she had something to say about J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar, saying that they weren't active in the community after George Floyd's death, and they were just quiet about it. So she had something to say. And then when J. Cole says, I didn't really like the tone of her Twitter, they took that to be misogynistic when really he was talking in literary terms, like tone, the way it sounded, the way it felt. It felt judgmental. I didn't really like that. It felt condemning. So after that, she made an opinion or a statement on Twitter that was very similar to that African that you named. She says, "We love an African aesthetic draped in capitalism. Hope we remember the Black folks on the continent whose daily lives are impacted by US imperialism. If we can uplift the imagery, I hope we can uplift those who will be able to access it. Black liberation is a global struggle." And that's great. All right. No Name says that. That's her opinion. But listen to these Africans. As an African living in Africa, I assure you, Beyonce's dedication to collaborating with our talented creatives to come up with beautiful, uplifting art is doing more for us than anything you have done. The problems we have haven't been caused by Beyonce. Neither is it her responsibility to fix them. She is doing her part to help bring visibility to the beauty in us. We don't need your divisive tone to tell us what we should or shouldn't appreciate. You're not our mouthpiece. Another, who are you speaking for? I hope you didn't fix your fingers to tweet for us, because I can tell you what we don't need is your voice. We don't need a no-hit wonder American trying to ruin a movement that we're currently enjoying. A Black artist creates work with hundreds of African artists. And if you watch the video, there were hundreds of African models, rappers, singers, costume designers, choreographers. Lapita was in that piece. All right. So she paid a lot of homage to Africa. Another one, fake woke, fake deep. Black Americans are equally oppressed by the US. How does a work of art projecting Blackness contribute to oppression? You are too smart to be dogmatic about worldviews on the creation and distribution of wealth. And it goes on and on. There are plenty of Africans that are happy with the production of Black is King. Why? Because they have something to offer. They have something beautiful that has been widely demonized by Western civilization. And this woman has taken her platform and her millions of dollars. She put people on. I tell you right now, people are on Spotify looking up these African artists because they've seen them feature in Kendrick Lamar's Black Panther soundtrack. They've seen them feature in Black is King, myself included. I've been rocking African Heat on Spotify on repeat ever since Kendrick Lamar's album for Black Panther came out. So some people have a problem with the whole Wakanda stuff, and some people, including the South Africans who were casted in that movie, thought it was great for Africa because now we want parts. Now somebody like me, if I want to start a clothing line, I want to buy my fabrics from Ghana. I want to talk to, I want to be educated about, tell me about our culture because you know it better than I do. Now I'm more interested in learning maybe a Togo dialect or Igbo or Ewe than I am interested in learning German or Chinese because they're making it look lit. And we are all about aesthetic here in America and trends. And people like Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce are making this something that is palatable to us. We like visuals. And because we like visuals, she has done a hell of a thing for the continent of Africa. Now, they are going to have opinions because they have this distrust. That distrust was created by white supremacy because as long as we're at each other's necks, we can't unite. I want you to imagine an African continent where Black Americans are totally in sync and united with the people over there, and they're totally with us. Man, that's a problem. That is Wakanda, bro. That is a problem. It's a problem if I say, I'm not buying from ancestry.com, I'm buying from africanancestry.com. It's a problem if I say, I want to make soaps, but I'm not buying any of my raw material over here. I'm buying all my raw material from some old lady in Ghana who makes her own stuff straight from shea butter from the trees in her backyard. That's a problem. So they want us to be like, F them over there or F them over there. They don't know our struggle. But that's not all Africans and that's not all African Americans. And so again, I don't like everything Beyonce and Jay do. I do have a mistrust thing for them because of the things that I learned. I don't care. It's tools and strategy. How can we use this to build upon? Some little Black girl right now is talking about what'd she say? This, that, no perm, this, that natural, whatever she was saying about. Some little Black girl is repeating that in the mirror right now. So I don't give a crap what anybody says because the usage of it is way more important and it's way more impactful on a global scale than anything Satan's version of Christianity has done for our people, period.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you end on that period so it can be emphasized, just that period. But
That was well said, brother. Well said,
yeah.
brother.
We're gonna touch on Satan's Christianity before we slide out. But I just want to touch on what both of you guys were saying, that I definitely agree that there is some sentiment of mistrust, and I'm not saying that they're not wrong in having that opinion. As far as, I mean, Africa is diverse, so we're not just going to lump Africa into those three tweets. One thing that I do know that is that with us as a people, we distrust people that look like us in higher positions, and especially when you got bread. Let's be honest, especially when you're in the entertainment industry more so, politics as well. But entertainment wise, I think that at the end of the day, we forget that they are actually people, and they actually grow into being themselves, whether they get taken over and it's just about money, or whether they actually grow within themselves and see something different. Um, I mean, one of the things that I seen that a friend of mine had a post the other day about Jay-Z and one of the newest songs that he got with Pharrell called Entrepreneur, and in one of the lines he referred to Fubu, and it was like, well, what are your thoughts on this? It was a lot of tweets. I was like bashing him. I'm like, man, this this man has grown. Like you can actually tell from the way that he carries himself that he has grown differently, whether it be for optics or not. Um, I mean, the last album that we really heard from him was with Jay Electronica, and we all know what Jay Electronica believes. So I mean, and he's hated by that community that has a lot of media control and whatnot. So for Jay to be on there, it's kind of like, okay, maybe you're taking a different perspective. You can even hear it in his last album 444, like he was really giving back game. And I think that since there is a mistrust, we forget that at the end of the day, they still are people, they still are artists. Beyonce is an artist among artists when it comes to her stuff. Yeah, you can say that we can assume or allegedly she has a demon with Sasha Fierce switching or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, even if you've gotten into an industry that you at first didn't know what it was, if you can find ways to maneuver and move in it to where you can actually grow within yourself and it be to where it's for the better. um, I mean, nobody said anything about Mace when he left and went to Christianity. So why can't we say the same thing about Beyonce having from Bills to celebrating African culture? Um, I think that's one of the things that I think that we just have to understand that they're human as well. They're people, and they grow. Like Jay-Z's not going to be reasonable adult Jay-Z all of his life. You know what I mean? Like we've seen Joe Button be from Pump It Up to now he's got a podcast. Who's seen that coming? Nobody. But at the end of the day, he's grown to the point to where he's at a level and a maturity to where he knows who he is and a lot more to where he's more comfortable and more outgoing. Um, so I just think that at the end of the day, we just got to realize that they are people. And yes, we are in America, so it is a capitalistic culture. Yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, she's shedding light in a big light on this continent and the diverse cultures that exist. And you can delve into it whether you want to or not. But just musically, like Eric said, he's been on his African beats ever since Black Panther soundtrack. So I mean, it just it's a seed that's planted, and where it goes, in my opinion, is just based on how you water it. That's my deep quote for today. But
No doubt.
to go back to what you were saying and what Killer Mike has said. When I say you, I mean Eric. As far as Satan's Christianity and me being raised in Christianity, it may be unpopular for me, I guess, to not necessarily go against the grain, but just really what is Satan's Christianity? Like the term Satan is adversary. Just in layman's terms, Satan is adversary, and Christianity is a religion. So you have an adversary's religion. Is Christianity really adversary's religion?
Do you want me to answer? You want
Either or can jump in. I mean, I have my perspective, but it's just a question.
All right, I'll go ahead.
Go ahead, brother. Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
All right, so first and foremost, I mean, that's a loaded question. I'm trying not to be too mouthy or too wordy or long-winded. Um, Christianity, the way it was formed, it is today, started actually pretty early on in what Christianity is. But it started foreign to the central figure of Christianity. The central figure of Christianity, who most Christians know as Jesus Christ, whose real name was Yeshua Bar Yosef, what's being practiced now, he wouldn't recognize, nor did he prescribe. He didn't tell anybody to do any of the things that are involved in modern Christianity's literature. You're not going to find these things. You're not going to find them in his quotes, and you're not going to find them in the historical Yeshua that we can know. You're not going to find these things. All right. So how did Christianity form and spread to be what it is today? Okay. So first, you had some, and I'll use layman's terms, you had Judeans, right? People who we would call Jews, living in the southern region of Israel, in a Roman occupied Palestine. So you have these ancient Near Eastern people indigenous to Palestine, where we call Israel and Yemen and all that today. And they were being occupied by a European colonial power called Rome. Okay. The lingua de facto, which means the language that was predominantly spoken by everyone in that entire region, was Greek. All right. Greek. The New Testament that we have today was written in Greek. Yeshua Bar Yosef was a poor, blue-collar carpenter Jew who was illiterate when it comes to terms of Greek. He spoke Aramaic. He read Hebrew. He could not write down Greek, nor could his apostles, his disciples, his immediate inner circle could not write anything down in Greek. So what you have is you have a group of people, and some would say, you know, these people were developed by Paul spreading his understanding of what Christianity is supposed to be. And all of this started after Yeshua had died and have been reported to have resurrected. You had Greek-speaking people who heard about this person, who their whole entire lives into adulthood were pagan. They practiced Roman and Greek religions, and their culture, their mindset, their worldview was based around Greek understanding, Greek philosophy. So naturally, and there is evidence for this, naturally, those things are going to pour into their understanding of this man that they're being told about. And when they go to spread it to their fellow Greek-speaking citizen, they're going to need to spread it in terms that they'll understand, one, and two, that are going to be convincing for someone who is used to the plurality of having multiple gods that they can go to and call on for rain, to have a baby, to have a, you know, they want to stop the storms. They want someone to help them with wars, to believing in one poor Jewish man from an obscure area of the world that is being totally occupied by Roman occupation. How can I convince you that of this person's credibility? Well, I need to speak in terms that you and I understand. And so they're writing from that perspective. And you'll see it in the difference between how the Gospels are written out. You have the Gospel of Matthew, that's a very Hebraic feeling gospel, that's saying, when it talks about his genealogy, they're starting at Abraham. Why are you starting at Abraham? Because ancient Palestinians saw Abraham as their ancestor. Now, why in another book would you start with Adam, the first man? Well, that's so I can be all inclusive and include everyone in on this, so all people can feel a part of this, because all lives matter, right? And that's the spirit of it, my friends. That's when you talk about the enemy's version of your Christianity. And from there, far removed from the Church of Jerusalem, all throughout the Roman Empire, where this thing started to pick up speed and spread, where the people that decided what books are authoritative and come from God, and the people that decided what you can and can't believe in and what you should and shouldn't be doing, are people that came 100, 200, 300, 400 years after what was going on in the written text, and far removed from them people. They don't understand those cultures. They don't understand what his core message and thought was. Instead, they have a core message and a thought and political agendas that they need to convey to their people. Why was Christianity, this Greek fraternity group, picking up so much steam that an emperor named Constantine decided, you know, forget all our culture, let's tap into this? Why would he do that? Why would he decide that this is something that I want to do? Why? Because he had some kind of theophany experience? No, because it was useful. This thing is catching steam. These people were being burnt at the stake. They were being thrown to lions. They were being tortured, and they would not renounce this Iesu Cristo. They would not renounce him. That's power, my friends. I'm finna use this to conquer the world. And he said that. He had a dream. He was in battle. He stuck his sword into the ground. The sun shined down on his sword. It cast a shadow of a cross. And he saw this image of a word that said, with this symbol, you shall conquer. It continued into European history, all the way down to the times of colonialism and imperialism and spreading across the globe to poor indigenous people and telling them, you will look to this symbol or you will die. And they conquered just like that. If that's not enemy, I don't know what is. Now, I like to, if you're okay with it, I'd like to attack the word Satan in the first place. Because if we're going to say that she's paying homage to satanic rituals, that she is a Luciferian, that she worships Lucifer, well, then we need to define some terms here to know what this comes from. But I'm going to speak your language, or the language that you should be speaking if you claim to believe in the biblical text. Because most people believe that Satan is the devil and the devil is Lucifer, or was Lucifer at one time. And most people believe that Lucifer was some kind of scary being that wasn't a beautiful angel, and he fell from the heavens and was disgraced and took a third of the angels with him, and he became the epitome of all evil, and he spread evil throughout the world. And when you ask, where do you get that from? They take you to Isaiah chapter 14. Well, then let's go to Isaiah chapter 14 and investigate what this really is. All right. So I'm going to go to, let's take it to church a little bit. Isaiah chapter 14. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at the source text that they're talking about. And I'll go New King James Version because, you know, Christians love their King James. New King James Version, the fall of Lucifer. This is what it says. We'll start at verse 12. How you've fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you will be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. So that's 12 to 15 in the New King James Version. I'm not even going to go into why the King James Version is completely garbage and all of the other English translations are not far behind from being garbage. First of all, let's look into that word Lucifer. That word Lucifer is not in the Hebrew text at all, not even there. Also, Christians have been doing the disservice, Christian teachers, pastors, preachers, deacons have been doing the disservice of giving this text out of context. What does context means? Well, in school, when you say, what does this word mean, teacher so-and-so, she says, what's the context clues? Meaning, what is it saying before and after that word so you can understand the definition? The entire passage is a passage that's written by this prophet Isaiah to the king of Babylon. So who's he talking to? He's talking to the king of Babylon in this passage. How does he go from talking to king of Babylon to suddenly taking a break to refer to some super evil angel who's fallen from heaven and then go right back to talking to the king of Babylon? That makes absolutely no sense. But Christianity, Satan's version of Christianity, does not even care about context anymore. If you really cared about what your Bible said, it would be important to you who Isaiah is addressing. At that point, the Hebrews were in captivity to the Babylonians. And this king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, was a great emperor who had weakened the nations because he ruled above them. Now, this word Lucifer, where did this Lucifer come from? Where it doesn't show up anywhere else in your Bible. Why does it show up here? And what did it originally say? Well, it says, if we go to verse 12, in the Hebrew, I get it for you. And I'm gonna hit you with this like this. Ek napalta masamiyan mashamayim, that's from the heaven, mishamayim, Hallel, how you are fallen, Hallel. Not Lucifer. Where did Lucifer come from? It said Hallel. Hallel ben Sahar. Hallel ben Sahar. Ben, son, Sahar, of the morning. So, what does it say? How you are fallen from the heavens. Hallel, son of the morning. What the heck is Hallel? What does it mean? And why would Isaiah be calling the king of Babylon Hallel? Hallel means source of light or shining one. This was an epithet for kings of Babylon. In the Middle East, they called their kings the source of light, son of the morning, because they were deified. They were considered gods. An epithet is a nickname that describes your character. So he's mocking him. Oh, source of light or light bringer, how you've fallen from the heavens. You said you were going to sit your throne above God. And now you're about to fall because other kingdoms are coming to get rid of you. You're going to be humbled. Where did Lucifer come from? Translation. That is Latin. That is a Latin word for light bringer. There's no capital there. That's not a character. That's not an ontological being. That's not a bad guy, some big spiritual bad guy. So you have no, okay, now Lucifer is gone. It meant Lucifer. And the Romans understood that to be Venus. So their understanding being implanted here is this is some God. But the person that wrote it was talking to the king of Babylon and making fun of his nickname, because you're calling yourself the source of light. You're calling yourself a God, and our God is about to get rid of you. Well, we've removed your bad guy. Now what? What is this Satan? Well, let's go into Job chapter 1, verse 7. The funny thing is,
we're not. Nope. We're
all
not.
right. So let's not. But let me say this though. Let me say this. Anytime you see that word Satan, which is not even mentioned in the book of Genesis, in the book of Job, he calls him Ha-Satan, not Satan. Ha-Satan, the adversary. And at that time, that was a title of a job. He was the district attorney. He was the accuser. His job in the court of law was to look throughout all the earth and find people who were not righteous, and his job was to persecute them. That's why when he came into the heavens, God said, "What you been up to, my employee?" He said, "I have been looking to and fro for whom I may devour." That was his job. He was the Satan. When you put the on it, it takes away from this character name. He was the person who was the adversary to the defendant in the court of law. So for your righteousness, there was a figure whose job was to judge you. Now I've taken out your bad guy. Now you don't have no villains. And if you go into Isaiah even more, the Most High says, "I am the source of good and evil, light and darkness, life and death." Now you don't have nobody to blame. Blame God if you want to, Christians. He said he's the source of good and evil. So where's this Satan come in when Satan made you do it? Who can pay homage to this character if this character is not who you think it is anymore? Now you got to be responsible for your actions because it wasn't the devil. And
Illuminati.
The people that pray to Lucifer are no different than the people that pray to white Jesus.
Oh.
Both of y'all are praying to a fictional character.
Oh gosh. All right. Mr. Savage, you got anything?
That was well spoken, my brother. You know, I ain't really got anything else to say. That was an earful to take. I need to hear that.
Um, I didn't know when
Even
I
though,
was.
even though, even though he tried to be as surface as he could, you know what I'm saying? So I understand where he was coming from.
Listen, if you want to learn more, hit him up personally.
You can't dismantle lies by scratching the surface because the lies are so deep. So it's like you got to go to the core of it. Where did this come from? Well, some
Definitely.
European guy said, okay. So this is our bad guy.
Right.
They changed it from the Satan to Satan. Now we got a bad guy. Now we got somebody to blame.
But
Blame
see,
yourself.
now you've dropped the jewel. Now you dropped that seed of uh to where the listeners and the watchers that go back and have some things to think on. This was not to bash Christianity whatsoever.
Right.
It was when I pitched this idea to my counterparts as far as bringing in as a forum. It's one of the reasons is because just looking at history. One of the things that has been, like I said, negative upon just American culture is African culture and the things that they do, whether it be uh, rituals, whether it be the dresses and whatever the case may be, just whatever is associated with their culture, it was a negative connotation to it. And one of the things that I want to shed light on personally was the fact that there's a lot of things that we can embrace about looking back into our history, whether it be through the Bible, whether it be through looking through different cultures and what they practice. And I'm not saying no to get into witchcraft or anything like that. I mean, I would say to be cognizant and use your wisdom and know what's good and what's evil or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, don't have a fear for a lack of understanding. Um, and I think that nowadays with I call it the information age, we're at a point to where we have so much access to knowledge that we can actually tap into a lot. Um, yeah, I think one of the reasons why someone like Eric, for example, has been able to delve in is because they're so accessible to the sources of different things, and you it's a rabbit hole that you may go down. You know what I mean? Um, of just getting, I would say, look at things objectively. Um, the reason being is because a lot of things and a lot of the culture that we've been taught here in America has been passed down from generation to generation. And it goes back to translation. And I mean, there's been ancient civilizations that look like us, even if you want to go beyond the Hebraic scope. I mean, we have um, where Abraham came from, where the land of Ur, right, which was in the Chaldeans, correct? Which would be in the land of Sumeria, which would be pre the Bible, or even Mesopotamia, which I think is a mixture of, I don't know, but just understanding that there was things before, um, and and not having a fear of looking into what was, and not just accepting what has been given. I think that was um, one of the reasons why I personally pitched the idea is because I have some friends that are from Africa. Shout out to Togo, um, and and the things is that the when I see her and I see nothing wrong with anything that she celebrates with as far as her culture is concerned. And I know her to be someone who's been of the faith of following the Messiah that was written in the Bible. And there's to me, there's no there's no evil or no badness or nothing that comes. Everybody has a different journey to go on. There's nothing. I would say that there's when it comes to the divinity of whether you whatever you believe in, it's all about morals, in my opinion. Um, I mean, if you want to get into depth, we could talk about the laws of the Torah or the laws of the Ma'at or the Sumerian tablets, whatever you want to. I mean, when it comes down to it, how are they living their life? You know what I mean? How exactly are they doing? In my opinion, Beyonce, I don't know her. I don't know Beyonce Carter Knowles. I don't know her twins. I don't know but from what I seen when her and her husband got together, it was all about money and getting to the money. And now that they've come about being parents, it has changed them to where they have wanted to look deeper into themselves. And it's gotten to the point to where it's a lot of things that have been done in the past that they can't change. One of the things I see now is Jay-Z's talking about ownership, and his partner Dame was talking about that from the beginning. And even though he got slighted for the path that he took of not going the corporate way, when you look at any of the recent Dame Dash interviews, he's like, this is the happiest that I've been. I'm independent. I own my own stuff, whether it be leveraging credit, this and that, whatever the case may be. I do this myself. Nobody can tell me nothing. And I want people to look inside themselves. He's wanted people to be more aware about diabetes because that's something close to him. Started a own network about how you can eat healthy and whatnot. That's awareness to me, and that's growth. And I think that we got to get out of, and when I say we as a culture, as a people, got to get out of the construct that what has been given to us is not all good, and we need to sift through to see what it is that it is good. And even if we go through different journeys, like I said, there's um no, I don't have any brothers that are Muslim, but I do have some that are like, yo, I'm not Christian. No, I don't know anybody who studies the comedic sciences or the more sciences or whatever. But at the same time, I respect them. I respect them as black men. I respect them as black women. I respect them because they're sticking to a moral code, and I respect them because they're shedding light on a lot of things that are indigenous to us as a people. And I think that we as a culture, as a people in America, need to get more in tune with that. And even when we're talking about the quote unquote, the Christianity or the most, I guess, criticized religion, even in that, it has a historic value when it comes to Ethiopia
Yep.
and looking to what is the origins of the Christianity and not what's actually being given to me. I think that has been just my I guess my negative connotation on Christianity in a sense. But it's a 8:29. I ain't mean to speak that long. I normally don't.
Right, brother. Right,
I normally don't.
right.
But on that note, what we do here is we'd like to give our final thoughts. Um, so I'm gonna start with Twan with our final thoughts for the day.
Well, my final thoughts is, I hope we shed some light on this situation here. I mean, this, the contents of what we had today. I hope we shed some light on everybody, to have a better understanding or, try to understand, everything that was said today. Brother Yacub, man, salute my brother. I got to build with you, man, yo, 'cause you got a lot. You got a lot to say, man. You got a lot to say. Man. We need to hear that. Even myself, you know what I'm saying? I'm learning. I'm still learning too. You know what I'm saying? At the same time. So it was an eye opener, brother, and I appreciate that.
Thank
Definitely,
you, thank you,
definitely.
thank you, thank you. Um,
Ezekiel bin Yacub.
this journey that I feel like the Most High has put me on has led me to a deeper love for my people, um, and a concern, and not just for our people, but indigenous cultures in general, all the people groups of the world who have been adversely affected by colonialism and imperialism, who've been taught to hate themselves, the way they look, the way their ancestors looked, and the way their ancestors communicated with the Most High. And I say that with confidence that most of these people were worshiping the same God that Yeshua was worshiping, in their own way, in their own language and lexicon. I want to say to my Christian family, in no way, shape, or form am I anti Christian. In fact, I would beg to differ and say that I'm more concerned about reform in Christianity than throwing away Christianity or bashing it. I'm very critical of it because the people that partake in it are people that I love, that I grew up with, that I care about. So what I would say to you, if you're going to be a Christian, if you're going to call yourself a follower of Christ, I challenge you to look at the Gospels and the New Testament from a critical standpoint. Analyze it. Learn it from the historians who spent their entire careers learning this, that can read Greek and Aramaic. Learn what his core teaching was, because I believe that I follow his core teaching, not the teaching, and it's not necessarily the teaching today. Yeshua Bar Yosef was an apocalyptic prophet or a preacher. All right. He came in a time where his people were being oppressed by another people. And his message to his people were, this is my message to you. If you want to continue to be called a Christian, I don't call myself a Christian anymore. But if you want to continue to call yourself a Christian, that's great, but really be one. So that means that his core message to his people was repent, which means change your mindset, turn back to the law, statutes, and commandments. What did that mean for them? Go back to the ways that was prescribed to our ancestors and love one another. Live a life of service to one another. Live a life being vocal for injustices. Speak for those who don't have a voice. Fight for those who are marginalized. And that's a proactive and activist statement. And it's the reason why he was killed, was that he was saying you need to repent because the current regime and the world system as it is going to end and implode on itself. So how do I translate that to Americans today? America is on a sliding board to hell. Whatever that hell means for you, it's imploding on itself because it's corrupt everywhere you look. No matter what political party you believe in, both sides are corrupt. The things that are pushed as okay and celebrated, that's corrupt. Change your mindset. Yeshua said, repent. Look to the ways of your ancestors. And if you need the Bible as a base, I want you to really look in that Old Testament where their culture was built up and see how similar it is to the cultures of your ancestors, so that you won't be so scared when you want to pour out a drink offering, because Jacob did it too, and the Levites did it too. Don't be so scared when you want to call upon the name of the ancestors, because they believed in them things too. Look to Abraham and Sarah and remember their ways and go back to their ways. Come on, man. I'm telling you right now, if you're going to be a follower of not Jesus Christ, but Yeshua Bar Yosef, if you're going to be a follower of his, think about what he said. Love God with all your heart and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. But you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love yourself. And you can't love yourself if you don't know yourself. Find out who you really are. Love that. Love your big nose and your full lips. Love your brown skin and your nappy hair, or whatever shade you come in. And love that your ancestors were dope as hell, man. The patterns of the fabric, their technology, their sculptures, the ways that they communicated with everything in life. Everything had life. Everything had a spit. Everything in the Igbo had a chi. Look into this stuff, man, for yourself, and don't be afraid. You're not betraying God. In fact, I would say to you that if you look for your identity and if you look into yourself, you might just find God. And he might not look like the pictures you've seen. And I'll close with that. He might look like your daddy.
Mm. No question.
My final thought for the day is that don't be scared and have no fear. And what I mean by that is don't be scared to question things. Don't be scared to look into things. Don't be lazy about it either, because there in my opinion, was a system that was systematically put together for us not to know, um, as far as us here in America, whether it be confusion, what is the not literature? Yeah, literature, schooling, education, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things that need to get rediscovered, and I think that we need to understand that there was a past behind 1492 as far as slavery is concerned, and regardless of what path you take, um, just understand that there is divinity in you, and you need to discover that. And there are religious paths that can take you that way. Um, I'm not going to say what is for who, but at the end of the, I mean, I prescribe to something that could be similar to what Eric said, could be similar to what Christian said, could be similar to a Kemetic brother, to a Islamic brother, to a 5%, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, you need to understand who you are, understand who you used to be. And when I say you, meaning you as a culture, as a people, and and shed the scales off your eyes. I mean, um, everything that people do as far as celebrities is concerned, their journey and whatnot. Don't just think of it as everybody in the entertainment is evil. Everybody on TV is evil, because everybody's path is different. Um, Me personally, my opinion is that there is a lot of evil in the industry. Um, there's probably a lot of people that's gotten overtaken, but there's a lot of people that try to fight the system as well, and we got to stand with those that fight against the system. And something like Beyonce sharing African culture, in my opinion, is fighting the system, because it's not corporate sponsors, it's not CAA choreography or dancers that she worked with. She worked with people that look like her, that were from the continent that we call the motherland. So, in my opinion, she's shedding light. Uh, don't judge anyone's journey. So, with that being said, get like on Facebook, subscribe, follow on YouTube, uh, subscribe and follow on Spotify as well. But until then, if you have anything that you want us to discuss, you can hit our inbox, hit our chat. Definitely appreciate Antwan Savage and Ezeki'El and Yacub for joining us today. Definitely appreciate it. Wish my guys was here,
Okay, brother.
but I totally understand things happen. But until then, speak on it.